Well, welcome to week 2 of the Marketing Mastermind course. I am so excited for today's session because we have an unbelievable special guest speaker, and I'm so excited that he agreed to be part of this session because it's all about storytelling. So I'm really excited to hand it over to him. But before I do that, of course, we have to talk about your action items and the stuff that you guys did last week. So last week we came up, or you guys came up with your number one goal, and then you had to come up with your action items for the week. So you had 3 to 5 action items that you needed to complete last week, and I want to know and hear from you guys if you actually did them. So type in the chat box and just let me know how many of those action items you actually accomplished. So if you set out to have 5, how many did you actually do? So did you do 3 to 5, 3 out of 5, or 5 out of 5? Let me know how many you actually did get finished last week, because that, like we talked about last week, is a big part of this course. It's not only helping you identify what those action items are, but it's also making sure that you're held accountable to actually doing those action items, because that's what's actually going to move you forward in your business. So it's really important that you are taking action and doing those things. One thing I did want to bring up, because people are posting the action items in the Facebook page, I wanted to make sure to bring this up because I'm seeing a lot of people post things that are kind of vague. So remember, your goal, your overall goal needs to be a SMART goal. So it needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And so do your action items. So those weekly action items need to be a SMART goal as well. And when you look back at the end of the week, you need to be able to check it off and say, yes, I actually accomplished this. So instead of, I'll take some of what you guys were putting. So instead of saying something like one of your action items is redoing my website, that's a lot. So instead of something like that, your action item just for the week could be writing the homepage copy or getting 2 testimonials from clients to put on my testimonial page. Instead of things like work on asking clients for referrals, because you can work on that all day long, being able to know at the end of the week you actually accomplished it. So saying, replacing that and using call 3 clients and ask for referrals. So then you can actually say, yep, I called 3 people, I got those referrals. Another one is somebody had put spend less time on Facebook. That is one that we can probably all use, but making it really specific. So instead of just spending less time, making that, limit my time to 30 minutes a day on Facebook. And of course, tracking that time and making sure you're not going over it. So just make sure that the action items that you're creating aren't very overwhelming. They're bite-sized pieces. They're things that between today, Monday, and Friday, by the end of Friday, you can say, check, 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 I actually accomplished this, I did it. So they can't be so vague. Some of you you have really lofty goals and your action items are a little bit vague, and that's just gonna get you a little bit more overwhelmed. And we don't want that. We want you to actually do the things that you need to do to push you forward every week. I also just want to make sure that you guys are using those productivity tools that we talked about. If you need a refresher or a reminder, you can go to the members only area and go to the first session, and you can find the video recording of last week's session, and you can also find some of those tools and resources. But we want to make sure that we're staying productive and not just busy. So those are just some resources to make sure you guys are staying on track. And again, utilize me and the Facebook group if you have any questions or any concerns or you need feedback on some of the stuff that you're doing. That's why the Facebook page is so important. You can also email me if you have any questions or if you need some help with setting those goals or action items. Again, we want to make this easy and really inspiring for you guys to be able to do. The next 8 weeks, I want to make sure that by the end of this 8 weeks, you've actually felt that you've really moved forward and you've accomplished that goal that you set for yourself. Okay, so today I am so thrilled because we are talking about creating your business story. And storytelling is one of those things that it's extremely important in business today, because being able to tell your story is, for every business, is important, because you're able to connect with your prospects and your current clients and customers in a much more powerful way, a way that makes them engage with you a lot more. It inspires them to really love and appreciate your business, and it's something that it's kind of an art that you need to that you need to be able to tell your story in a way that gets people to not only know more about you, but the why behind why you do what you do and why you're such a great business to get involved with. And when I created this course, I knew that storytelling had to be a piece of it, because, again, writing and storytelling is just a big part of business today, especially the way that social media is and the interactions that we have with our fans and our clients and our customers and our prospects. So I knew exactly who I wanted to be involved with this, and that is why I reached out to him and have this super awesome expert guest, because he said that he would love to be involved, and that is my friend Shawn Pfunder. He is the editor-in-chief of GoDaddy, and he has been working with small business owners and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs for over 20 years, and he is just an unbelievable guy. Was so I was so excited to have the opportunity to meet him only maybe like a few months ago. I met him at a SCORE conference. He was the keynote speaker. He kind of opened up the day, and he and I hit it off, became really good friends. And I talked to him all the time about marketing and storytelling and the challenges of small business. And he's just a wealth of information and knowledge. And he is one of the best storytellers. I've watched some of his bold talks that he did at Inbound, and he's a great writer, and he's just an all-around amazing guy. But um, he also just deals with so many different small businesses and has a really great outlook on storytelling and helping businesses craft their story. So I am going to turn it over to Shawn. He's got a phenomenal presentation. For those of you who have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask them in the chat box, and I will keep them. And at the end, I'll open it up for Shawn, and we'll start asking him some question and answer. So be sure that you stay on this call. You don't want to miss the opportunity to ask him questions. And again, we'll answer those at the end. So I am going to turn it over to Shawn. Let me unmute him. And I'll give him his access. Shawn,
I've
can
been
you hear me?
unmuted.
Yes, you have been unmuted. And let me give you the control. Good. I'm so excited. And Shawn and I actually spoke earlier today. So you're psyched, right?
Yeah, no, I'm totally excited. I want to make sure that I'm coming through clear. Only worry. So hopefully that's the case, and if not, please let Kate know. Let us know in the boxes. But yeah, I'm really excited. You're very kind. You said very kind things about me, which is great.
That's because it's true. I'm your number one fan. I told you.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm really, really excited. This is a presentation. Kate reached out and asked me to talk about storytelling, and I've been doing these presentations and talking to small business owners about storytelling for a few years now. The one that looked like it would resonate the most was this one. You're unique, just like everybody else, and we've tweaked it a little bit in discussing some of your particular needs and where many of you are on your business journey. So I hope that you find it hopeful as we go through today. I'm going to make sure that the controls work when I click down and then I click this. Yes, yes, it works. Okay, perfect.
Yay.
So, oh, good. Oh, we're totally clicking through lots of different things now. Kate, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Kate mentioned, I've been working with small business owners for a really long time. The reason why I said on that one slide that I'm your biggest fan is because I truly feel like starting a small business or starting your own thing, you're a freelancer or a solopreneur, you're somebody that is taking a risk and you're creating something. And listen, all of the evidence in the world points to us as human beings being creative animals. It's what we do, and we've been people that sort of create our future from the very, very beginning. Now, I think that entrepreneurs, small business owners, freelancers, people that kind of take their future into their own hands are making the most creative and courageous act in the world. I have a writing background, and so I refer a lot to writing and I don't know, goofy, frou-frou stuff like poetry or art and things like that. But it's all rooted within the same thing. Like you're making a creative thing or a creative act to express yourself or help the world in some way. Now, when I was a kid, ironic, well, maybe not so ironic. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer, but I had a big problem. It's that I wasn't very good. Uh, I had two brothers. I had one brother into art and drawing and painting, and I had another brother that was into singing, song, and music and things like that. As we just didn't step on each other's territory, right? Like that's if one of them's going to do art and the other one's going to do this, then I decided that I would be a writer, and instead of doing lemonade stands in our small town in Idaho, we would go out and set up these art stands, and we'd have people pay. I had one brother that paid for songs. He would sing songs for people and of them, and I would write these really horrible short stories. But I did have one short story, and it was a marshmallow, and it was called Melanie the Marshmallow. It was about a girl that I knew in second grade. Now, I didn't learn until much later in life that you probably, I mean, anybody a marshmallow, but especially girls in second grade. But she was kind and she forgave me. The story that I wrote, I actually won a contest. I won first place. I got $10, and my mom took me to the local bookstore. And at the local bookstore, she let me pick out any book that I wanted. And I was in a small town in Idaho that I didn't have a lot of choices, but I pick out one book. And that I picked out was this one here, because I'm getting a little bit of lag, so I'm just is The Marvelous Land of Oz. And uh, this book, and I guess buying my first book, it kind of changed my life. They loved it. They loved that they had a son that was into writing and wanted to be a writer. And much later in life, to a real bookstore. It was in high school. My parents took me on a road trip. I was looking at different schools and different colleges, and they took me to Portland, Oregon. And in Portland, Oregon, I went to Powell's bookstore. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of Powell's or been to Powell's bookstore, but it is a huge bookstore. There are so many options and so many books, and you could get lost in the basement of the bookstore. My parents were really excited because they're taking their son. It was like a journey to like a holy journey. They're taking him to Mecca, and he's going to see all of these books. And at first, when I stood in there and I saw all of these books all over the shelves, that did have that effect on me. Like I was really, really excited. I was so grateful, and I loved my parents, and I was like, "This is really great. Thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for bringing me to a bookstore." And then almost simultaneous to that, within the first 3 to 4 minutes of standing there in the bookstore, I became really, really overwhelmed. And I there's this realization that dawned on me, and the realization was I am never, ever, ever look at books that have already been, look at all these stories that other people have already told. Why in the world would they read anything that I would ever? And thinking about it more recently, working with small business owners, a lot of cases with entrepreneurs and freelancers, they're using even the same vocabulary. They're wondering what because there are many stories. You
Hey everyone, I know the connection is for some reason not really working, so Shawn's gonna call in instead of doing this online. See, always got to be some kind of technical difficulties. Sorry about that. He's gonna call in though so that it flows a lot better. I was kind of trying to figure out this connection, but he'll get on the call on his on the landline, so it won't cut in and out because I know that's frustrating. And we can actually, I'll probably see if he can just do this presentation all over. I mean, he just started, so it should be fine. But I can have him do it probably all over again, just so we can have a clean all the way through version of this. But we'll see if we can get that up and going. So thank you guys for your patience. Always has to be something with technology. Oh, and I gave him access to this. And I do have, just so you guys know, there are 2 worksheets like I put in the Facebook group. There's 2 worksheets, and you can find them. You can download them on in the members only area. And you can always go to the members only area by going to that same thing. It's just katevolman.com/mm. And that'll take you to that members only area, and then you can click on whatever session. So if you click on session number 1, the video from last week is on there, and then if you click on section number 2, you will find the video from tonight, and it'll be up either by tonight or by tomorrow. And let me see. I know, Mark, right? Such a cliffhanger. And Mark, were you here with the music? Oh man. I even asked Shawn, I asked him what his favorite song is to get him jazzed up about working. Oh, I have to unmute him. That would be helpful. Oh, what would I do without text message? Shawn, are you there?
I'm here. Is this better?
Oh, yes, so much better.
Okay, good. Oh, you
Okay.
guys, I feel horrible, man.
You should feel horrible. I'm just
I
kidding.
know.
No, it's all good. All right, it's all good. I'm gonna give you control. Oh, do you have control?
I think I still have control.
Oh, okay. I think, okay.
So when did it start getting really bad? Was it bad from the beginning?
Not from the beginning, just It's a little like maybe like the one before. Why don't you start with the marshmallow?
You want me to start with the marshmallow?
Or why don't you start
Why?
with the books? Why don't you start where the books was? Just start where you were in the bookstore and then you decided that it was start with the depressing part.
Start with the depressing part. All right. Well, we're gonna see here. I'm gonna try to get this back really quick on the presentation. Oh, this is great. Okay, cool. So back to the bookstore. So when I was standing there, just being overwhelmed with how many different options there already were, and the depressing part about standing in a bookstore and wanting to be a writer is that this is the sinking realization that nobody's going to read anything that I'm ever going to create. I had this feeling because there were so many options that were already out there and so many wonderful things that were already out there. Why in the world would anybody listen to me or what I was trying to say or trying to create? And it's funny, even talking with Kate earlier today, we were talking about the exact same thing. As small business owners or as entrepreneurs, it's that same feeling that sneaks in. And I have this conversation with a lot of people starting their own thing. Now, some of them, don't get me wrong, and this comes in stages, some of them are just so fearless that they just go running out there no matter what. And they don't think, oh, I need to have something unique or what's going to set me apart. But there always comes this moment or this realization that there are other options for people out there. What is it that makes me the right option for these other people? Because it's one of the things that can become really overwhelming when creating anything in the world, because there's all these different people that are all trying to accomplish something unique. So what is it? What is it about you that makes you unique? There are 23 million different small businesses that are started every year in the United States. And to stand out, right, and succeed as a small business, you have to stand out. Who are you? Who are you trying to help? Why do you do it? What do you care about? What makes you different than every other small business in town? There's other options for a lot of people out there. Now, you guys, I've got just a tiny bit of a lag, so I'm clicking through, and we're probably going to skip forward. Here it goes to the next slide right now. Well, this is great. The anticipation building. There it is. So the reason why I like to talk about story is because at GoDaddy and with my own freelance gigs that I've done in the past, we talk a lot about marketing. We talk a lot about social media. We talk a lot about websites. There's lots of different tools that are out there to make you successful using the internet. Those tools and learning how to use those tools, I found, is not nearly as difficult as figuring out what your story is going to be. So we have many, many, many different people that build a website, for example. They get the first 5 pages of their website up and running, or they decide that they're going to create a blog and they're going to use WordPress for the first time, or they're going to get onto social media. The tool itself, learning how to post, learning how to create the website and put an image on the website, and put text on the website, all that stuff is not difficult. It may seem like rocket science. It may seem really difficult. But what we found working with customers and what I found working with individual business owners and entrepreneurs is that they're able to pick up the tools, but oftentimes still don't know what to say. They still don't know what to put on their website. Even though they started with an initial business plan, or maybe even come up with a kind of a marketing strategy to start, they still haven't been able to clarify what their message is and tell other people what it is that they have to offer them in a very clear way. Well, one way to think about it, and we're going to keep coming back to this as we think about our stories or the stories that we tell to help our business, is what's the gift that you're offering the world? What's the gift that you're offering other people that only you can offer? This is where your unique positioning statement comes into play and your story comes into play. Now, I don't necessarily mean your story, meaning like the About Me page on your website or the story that's just about you. When I say the gift, I mean telling the larger story around how it is that you can affect somebody else's life in some way. How does your service, like who you are, how does that fit into their story? So not necessarily just yours, but a larger story that's going on. You know, there's been some great work done by Joseph Campbell was one of the first people to talk about story and how it influences the way that we think. And in very classic sense of story, there's different characters that show up in every good quest or every good story where the hero of the story is trying to accomplish something significant in their life. Now, don't get me wrong, getting like a really great cup of cappuccino may not be really that significant, but there is a reason why that person, that customer, goes to get that cup of cappuccino from you. And the role that many of us play in helping other people is what Joseph Campbell would call the role of the mentor, the sidekick, or the guru. But in all of those examples, the hero of the story is your customer or your potential customer. And we'll come back to that as we think through the way that we position or tell our story as a business and how it can help other people. Okay, we're going to go. I'm just hoping that my controllers are still. Oh, there we go. Now, as any of you haven't read Purple Cow by Seth Godin, I highly recommend this. It's one of his first books that he wrote. And the premise of Purple Cow is that Seth Godin, he's with his family. Picture like a father with a family. They're in south of France or they're in Vermont. They're somewhere where there's lots of cows. And as they drive down the road, they see the cows and they do the first thing any city dweller would do, or somebody that's not exposed to it. They roll down the window and they point at the cows and they moo, moo when they go past. That was a really bad moo. I don't. Okay, so I'm from Idaho, but I don't know how to moo. So they roll down their windows and they moo because it's something really unique. It's something interesting that they see. Now, Seth Godin basically postulates that that's really unique at that moment in time. But as they drive further and further through south of France, they see cow after cow after cow after cow. And it no longer becomes something unique. It's no longer something remarkable. And that's in the strict sense of the word. Remarkable meaning able to remark. You see something and you want to say something about it. You see something and you want to tell somebody about it. Now, what he says is, now if we were to drive along and all of a sudden see a purple cow, and this is significant because it's still a cow, right? It's not something complete. It's not like all of a sudden we see a dragon or all of a sudden, we see shoes raining from the sky, right? It's still a cow. But he says if we were to see a purple cow, we would do more than moo. Like we'd pull over the car and we would take pictures. Now, still a cow. Now, the reason is because when you're thinking about what makes you unique, I don't want to put too much stress on you to come up with something just completely outlandish and something crazy. My buddy and I, we like to talk about setting up our own small coffee shop. The coffee shop would be called Mos Eisley Cafe. And Mos Eisley was something from Star Wars. It's a totally geeky science fiction thing to do, where if you go to the coffee shop, everything there would be science fiction instead of, hipsters snapping their fingers and reading poetry and things like that. Like it would be something, that would be our purple cow or our attempt at a purple cow. Now, we're still going to serve coffee. We're still going to serve espresso, and we're going to serve those types of drinks. We're not going to dream up something really crazy. So within that context, you're still telling a story. It's just unique enough that people will remark about him. Let me give you an example of how this works even more closely or within real life. You know what? Let me give you that in just a second. Let's start by going through some of the practices or the things that I do in order to identify this. There are going to be three things that you want to focus on to come up with your story and your brand and how you retell it to other people. The first one will be your customers. So a clear identification of who your audience is or who your customers are. The second one will be your mission. Now, your mission, that's hard. Honestly, it is. And there's lots of people that, and many of you on the call probably have already either taken a shot at it or have something that you kind of like, but putting together why you do what you do and putting it together in such a way that when you explain it to somebody else, they totally get it. That's hard. There's many of us that tell people what our latest project is, or the books that we're working on, or the small business that we're working on, or the business idea that we want to launch. And come on, you guys have gotten this before, where you kind of get that head tilted sideways, and they kind of squint their eyes looking at you, like, I kind of get what you're talking about, but I kind of think you're crazy at the same time. Like, getting a mission together or a mission statement for what you want to accomplish is really, really important, and you need to put one together that would make sense to other people. And then the third part of this is what I call your brand. Now, your brand in this particular case won't be a logo, and it won't be the colors that you use. It's something different. This is going to be a phrase, something really, really short that encapsulates everything that you're trying to accomplish and focuses very closely on your customer or your potential customer, on the people that you're trying to help out. And it encapsulates what your gift brings to their life. So starting with customers. Now, if I were to write a book or put an article together to publish on a blog, I've often run into the problem of thinking about everybody being my audience, especially when you publish online. When you put something together online, you think, oh, yeah, I want to have millions and millions of people see what I'm doing and read whatever it is that I write. So you think about writing for all of your fans or all of your people or potential you wish you had fans, right? Like, it's putting that all together. Well, in working as a small business owner or creating your own venture, oftentimes we think the same thing. When you ask somebody, who is it that you're creating this for, we're sorely tempted to say, well, everyone, or everybody that lives in South Florida, or an entire demographic of people that we want to say. This is really problematic. What I suggest is that you focus on one particular person, and that's who your audience is going to be. So not a bunch of people, just one person. And it could be a real person. It could be a fake person that you create in order to build your target audience and who you're going to go after. But without this, it becomes really hard to tell your story. You end up telling hundreds of different stories. In this particular case, you want to figure out exactly what you're doing to help other people in their world and in their life. When I write to particular people. Oftentimes, I write to one particular person. And when doing my own freelance work, it's the same way. I have a persona of a person that I'm trying to help. Now, what this does is it helps me consolidate. It helps me take the many very different stories and ideas and things that I want to accomplish and put some order around them. And what I do is I create a customer profile. So here's an example of a very, very simple customer profile. Everybody, meet Elliot. Now, Elliot, he's 40 years old, lives in Delray. He got his Master of Fine Arts. He's a musician. He listens to Spotify instead of the radio. His favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That's CTC for all the cool cats out there. He wants to travel. He wears Vision streetwear shoes. He sleeps on his back. He likes Swiss cheese. His favorite film of all time is Xanadu. which is the best film of all time. If you haven't watched it, then you guys know what you're doing later on tonight. Really, just do it for Elliot. Now, putting this together gives me a general sense of the audience or person that I'm looking for. Now, this is playful to a certain degree, and putting together a persona can be as playful as you want it to be. There are other things that you can put into a persona. What is it that Elliot is trying to accomplish in life? What are things that keep Elliot up at night? What are things that Elliot's worried about? What are goals that Elliot has, and how can what you offer help him fulfill those goals? What's Elliot's quest? But putting this together gives you a better idea of what you can do to help out people in the world. I oftentimes say customers are once they become your customer. Like, this is just something more broad that you're looking at. Like, I am in business because I can help Elliots of the world, and this is how I can do it. Now, even at GoDaddy, we have personas. We have 6 different personas, and they all have their own names. They all have their own histories. Now, they're fictional, but they're based on real people. We have Nathan the Nascent, who owns a skateboard shop or wants to own a skateboard shop, and he's just getting started. We have Sam, who's small and hungry, where she has her website live. She just published, she's made a few sales, and she really, really wants to grow. She wants to quit her day job and do this full time. And then we've even got Esther, who's established and content. And Esther is someone who does not want to grow her business. She has a lifestyle business. Esther has a small restaurant, and that's all she wants to do. Now, knowing these personas, then when I put together my story or my marketing for these different personas, there's different language and different stories that I tell them. I'm never going to talk to Esther about growing her business because she would check out. Her eyes would kind of get glazed over, and she would think, okay, he has no idea who I am. I do not want to grow my business. I have a lifestyle business. I just want to stay where I'm at. And if I talk to Nathan, the Nathan who's just getting started, and I start to talk to him about search engine optimization, his eyes glaze over. He's just getting started. I should be telling him stories about building his first website and identifying what his brand is and who he wants to focus on. And those are the different ways that having a persona will help you. Now, the one example of knowing your audience really well actually comes from working with editors and writers. And I've hired many copy editors in the past, and people that edit work professionally for publication. And in hiring them, I get the stacks and stacks and stacks of resumes. They have 100 resumes with cover letters, and you guys are thinking about cover letters from writers. Like, if you've ever had to look over cover letters and resumes for people before, writers are it's a part, like a class apart. It's crazy what they'll put in there, and they're long, and they want to show me that they have great vocabulary. And so there's me, the hiring manager, plowing through resume after resume after resume after resume. Now, someone thought about her audience, decided she took a risk and decided who her audience was, and this is what she put. This is actually from a real cover letter that I got at GoDaddy. So the cover letter that I got at GoDaddy said, "I know you're busy. I'll be brief." And then it said, I've got to pause. "I'm good at what I do. I have 15 years of experience, and I bring candy into the office." And then she signed her name. Now, going through page after page after page, she had taken a risk, but identified exactly the type of company, the type of place she wanted to work for, obviously, and went after her audience. For her audience was somebody that's plowing through lots of cover letters and resumes and is probably tired and probably just looking for something that will work. Now, the truth is, on this story, I hired her, and she's the best copy editor and writer I've ever hired, ever. I don't even think I looked at her resume. I think I had her come in for an interview based off of the cover letter that she sent me.
So it's really important understanding who that is and then tailoring your story and your message to that person. Second is discovering what your mission is, or writing your mission. Now, this is difficult because it requires a lot of work. This requires a lot of writing or a lot of thought. Now, Kate and I talked about this a lot and ways that we could help you kind of uncover this. And one of the ways that I recommended is a trick that we use with writers as well. And what it is you sit down to write, and instead of having just a blank page in front of you and somebody saying, hey, write about your mission, what you do is you begin to write, and you start every sentence with the same phrase. For example, I started this because I want to make a living for my family. I started this because I really like coffee. I started this because Star Wars seems like a fun thing to do. I started this because I want to give back to the community. I started this because Princess Leia as a barista seems really, really cool. So you just keep starting the same sentence after sentence with the same phrase, and then you end it with something that's meaningful or that makes sense to your business. And then you can move on from there. I want people to see me as a creative member of my local community. I want people to see me as somebody helpful. I want people to see me as a great place to get coffee. So you fill this out, and you continue to write and write and write. These are some suggestions, and I think that these are good in kind of covering what types of goals or what your story might be. I'm different because success looks a lot like, and I help others do what. Now, what you're going to do is sit down and write and write and write, really until it hurts, until you think you can't go anymore. If you could get 900 words down, if you could get 1,200 words down, where you're just using those phrases over and over and over again, you'll start to uncover a lot of potential stories that you can use in marketing. You'll uncover a lot of potential stories that you can use when talking about your business. Once you have that, though, I want you to take all of that writing that you wrote down, everything through there, and you're going to cut it in half. And the easiest way to cut it in half the first time is to remove the beginning phrases that I suggested before, because you're going to find that there are nuggets. There are really great pieces that explain what you do. And then you're going to take that half and you're going to cut it in half again. What you're doing is really whittling down what it is that you do and why you do what you do. We're uncovering what your gift is. And then you're going to cut it in half again. Now, what you're going for in this particular situation is a mission statement that's less than 300 words. I would suggest that you get it so it's less than 100 words. But if you've got a lot to say and you've got already that story built in you, less than 300 words will work. And this isn't a long story about where you came to, and about your struggle, even though I think there's a place for that. This is more, what is your gift? What is it that you're trying to do in the world? And this mission statement has a lot of I's and it has a lot of we's in it. So GoDaddy's mission statement, I can't quote it like off the top of my head, but I love it. Starts with radically shifting the global economy in favor of small business, and then talks briefly about how we're going to do it. So it's short, it's less than 100 words, but it gives us a real sense of direction. It gives us a real purpose on what we're trying to accomplish. Now, a couple of things I want you to remember when doing this. The first one is that writer's block is a myth. Seeing that blank piece of paper can seem really overwhelming to a lot of people. And even after you go through the exercise and you have to cut and you have to whittle it down to 300 words, can seem intimidating. It can seem overwhelming. Well, I'm going to give you a tip or a suggestion that helps. Look at other companies. Look at other brands, other nonprofit organizations, that do something that you like and take a look at how they write about themselves and what they're trying to do to help the world. The reason why I suggest that is most artists, most writers base what they do off of templates in the world. So this is an example of a story. This is the fantastic Mr. Fox. Every story follows a familiar template. When it doesn't, actually, when it strays from the familiar template, that's when we kind of go, I have no idea what you're talking about. It sounds off. And so these stories follow a template. Whenever a story doesn't, we don't like it. It doesn't resonate with it. Writers use that template to create stories. Or even another example of a template, and one probably resonates with more of us even more, is the rock ballad, right? Verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus. So Bon Jovi and Whitesnake, Poison, Rush, the Beatles all followed a template. They had something that they started with. They didn't start with a blank sheet of paper. There was a form. Now what this means is that you look at the world, or you look at marketing, and you look at stories that other companies and other brands tell differently. Instead of looking at them for the substance of the story, you're looking at the structure they use to build the story. So, for example, somebody telling a story about how they might help somebody be more successful, you'll see that they'll mention the setting at the beginning of the story, and then they'll go into the story by defining the characters and other players. Now, Kate did this on accident, I think. I don't think she was thinking, this is a template, I must follow it, when telling me about one of your stories, where she started off with, their business is in Del Rey. And then she tells the story about how they got started. And then she tells me about something that they're struggling with. This is following a classic hero's journey story, and it only took her 30 seconds to tell me. But you start to notice these and notice the form more as you go along. Now, moving on to the last part, this is your brand. And we're going to try to cruise through this so we can get to some questions and a quick example. Now, your brand is, this is what you need to whittle down to 100 characters or less. This is a phrase, a statement that sums up what it is that you do. The most important thing to remember, and we talked about this a little bit before, is that this statement will not be focused on you. It won't be focused on your company. That's your mission statement. Your mission statement is why do I do what I do? Why do we do what we do? Your brand statement is about your customer, or about the people that you want to help. Now, this is a lot easier to think about with an example. An example in this case, one of the best ones is Nike. Now, Nike uses these phrases, and their most famous one, right, is just do it. Now, that is not Nike just do it. That is you just do it, or the potential Nike customer, the person in the world, just do it. And this is a great ad campaign that they did where it was find your greatness, not Nike find your greatness, but you find your greatness. Now, I'm sure that there were executives at Nike at one time that said, no, we'll just tell people, Nike, we make great shoes, right? Or Nike, we're in it for the athlete, right? But there's a we that's attached to it. What you're going after more is a focus on the individual and how you are going to help them be successful, or how you're going to help them have a better day, or how you're going to help them be the hero of their story. Another example is Apple. Apple, for a long time, it was think differently. Not Apple think differently, but you think differently. And then catered to, and it made sense, all of these creatives in the world, they thought, yeah, I want to think differently, or I do think differently. Therefore, I will buy an Apple product. This then influences all of your advertising, your social media, your website when you've defined this and know what this is. And don't get me wrong, this is hard. And we've got suggestions for you on how to come up with this. This is a phrase that a lot of people struggle with. GoDaddy, we didn't have one for many, many years. Our phrase now is it's go time. Now, it's not go time for GoDaddy, it's go time for entrepreneur, freelancer, small business owner. It's time to do it. You have that idea, it's time to move. It's go time. And that's what we came up with. Again, not focused on us, but focused on somebody else. So how am I going to make you happy in 140, 100 characters or less? And the less characters in this particular case, the better. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example kind of summing this all together and how this changes how you tell your story or the marketing that you put onto your website. This here, this fine-looking gentleman, is my father. Now, my dad, he was a fireman for many, many years. He was a big, burly, like Chicago-like fireman. Like I wanted, like with the mustache and I eat kielbasa fireman, not sexy San Diego fireman, like the mountain biking fireman. That wasn't my dad. Now, the reason I say that is to set up just how strange it was that my father, who used to make furniture, very manly, make furniture in the garage, my father became known as the quilting fireman of southeastern Idaho. He discovered his grandmother's sewing machine and then started making quilts. Now, he retired recently, and he wanted to continue making quilts. My sensitive dad. He retired and wanted to continue to make quilts. So I talked to him about his business, and we talked about the copy or the story that we would tell surrounding this. So an example, right, is that we focused really heavily on my dad being a dude because we thought that was unique. There's a unique story there about my dad being a guy that makes quilts. So handcrafted fire engine quilts made by a dude. Custom order your quilt today. A great call to action on there. It's short, sweet. It's got the 5 pages that I recommend for people to have on their website. But then when we started to think about the story, and we started to think about what my dad was trying to do in the world, we knew that this had to change. And we struggled coming up with what was next. We went through the mission, and we created the mission as to why he does what he does. And it was creating the mission that we discovered what his brand or his story would really be. And there was at one point in the mission statement where he said, everybody needs a blanket to keep warm with. Like it's that feeling when you cuddle up with a blanket that you feel safe and you feel secure. And this ties to his experience as a fireman. So everybody needs a blanket to keep warm with. And I thought, holy cow, Dad, I think that we finally uncovered what it is that you're trying to do. Right? You want to make the world a safer place. You want people to feel safer, right? And so we changed that website, or we went a different direction when creating the website so that it would focus on that. It would focus less on it being made by a dude and more about building something together, about making the world a cozier place. And so the statement that he came up with was to spread the love. He primarily makes baby blankets. And his audience, once he decided it was going to be baby blankets and that it was about spreading the love, he went after grandparents. That became the target and that became the persona that he would build. And it was actually his persona as a woman that lives in Texas, and she has some income and she wants something unique to give to her grandchildren. But she also is doing it to spread love, right? She's doing it to give them something different. So another example would even be in the email marketing that we put together. Allow myself to introduce myself. We thought we were being clever and funny. You're talking to a quilting fireman. And we're like, that's awesome. That's really unique. It's a unique story. It's a fun story to tell. And there's an appropriate time for my dad to tell that story. But when he focuses on the world and he focuses on other people, then that story changes when he sends it. Time to make the world a little more cozy. Now, in this case, it's not time to make the world a little more cozy, Fire Engine Quilt Company. It's time for you to make the world a little more cozy. Spread the love, keep a kiddo warm today. And so it changes the way that he tells that story and what he's going to say when going out. All right, so I'm going to wrap things up because we're getting close. And you guys, I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to be like freaking out about the audio difficulties. And the truth is, I don't know if you can hear me now, and I might just be monologuing, but I hope you can. The thing I want to leave you with is one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln, and it's one of my favorite words on hustle. things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Here's the deal. Kate has stressed this, and this is something that I love that she stresses with me and I stress with her. And the things that we talked about today and the things that I went over when thinking about your story and your brand and crafting that to use it, act on it. Like, there's something that you can do today to hone in on this. Put together your first customer profile. Work on your mission statement using those phrases. Come up with or play with what your potential brand statement might be. Those are things that you can do tonight, 5-10 minutes of just playing around with it and seeing. So even if you're established and your website is live and your business is live and you're pulling in money, great. If it's not and you just have an idea you kind of want to play with, then play with it. That's how we get better, right? Like, for all of us that learn to play the piano, we learn chopsticks and warming up our fingers on the piano. That was the practice to kind of get our feeling, our fingers feeling the right way. Well, we need the same type of practice when it comes to this, when it comes to writing, when it comes to brand, when it comes to marketing, identifying who we are and what our gift is for the world. So don't do it thinking this has to be final. Do it thinking that you're playing, you're practicing, you're coming up with something that will work. And then share that. Share that with people that you know. Share it with Kate. Share it with people that you're working with. All right, Kate, I hope that you can still hear me and that you guys haven't moved on.
No.
Doing something different.
No, we're good. You're good. And yes, people can hear you. Right when you said that, I was like freaking out for a second, but no, we're all good. Yes, everyone's saying all good, all good. Okay, I want to open it up for anyone to ask some questions. And I wish I had a little applause button. But we're applauding you.
Right. Yeah.
So I know somebody had asked. Let me go back up here. Oh, I need control. Take control.
Take control.
Take
it's
control.
all you now.
Oh wait, I need
Yep.
to. I don't have it. Can you give it back to me?
Yes. I'm willing control back to you. I think you just used it when you moved the.
Oh, wait a second. That's what I had to do. Okay, and now you can't see my screen, and now you can. Okay. All right. So does anybody have any questions for Shawn? Because this is kind of a big deal that we have him on the line, and you can ask him your questions. Let's see. Erica had asked, how can I know in what am I unique? So, Shawn, we were looking at her site. She had the clothing line and the shoes, and we were looking at her website.
Yeah.
So she's asking, how can I know in what I am unique?
The easiest. So it's interesting because, by the way, it's a fantastic question, and there's one of the reasons why I think Seth Godin's book, the Purple Cow book, resonated with me so much, because unique sometimes we think that it needs to be so different than everybody else. It's important that in that story that Seth Godin tells, that it's still a cow. So we were looking at your site to see what it is that's not necessarily, we weren't talking about to see whether or not it was unique. We were actually just looking at really cool shoes on your website, which says something about being unique already and putting things together. But maybe there's something else that stands apart. In your particular case, I don't know the other players in town that might be like you. I mean, maybe the thing that makes you really unique, even though you're selling online, is the local aspect of what it is that you're doing, or being part of the local community or the design scene or modeling scene in the local community that would make you unique, meaning you're not just another store that happens to sell really cool custom fashion wear, but there's something else that you do that makes it different. And that would be identifying whatever that brand statement is, that's not just look terrific, right? That would work, because that's you look terrific, not me, the company look terrific, but maybe there's something that's different or a little bit more unique about what it is that you do. But a great question. And to tell you the truth, you're probably going to be thinking about it even after you come up with something that works, that might stand apart or might make you different than the other players. But it's worth struggling with, and it's worth coming up with something that will work. I don't know, Kate, do you have any ideas or thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think that a lot of the stuff that you shared today is kind of helps somebody figure out what makes them unique. Because I think everybody, there's something unique. Like you said, you're unique just like everyone else. And so I think like coming up with or going through those exercises and activities really helps you identify what that looks like. A lot of times people just want to make it easier and just say, like we talked about the other day, like I'm unique because I really care. But like, no, that's, like that's not it. So, but there are things that I feel like I even feel like the way that like the feedback you get from your customers, I think is really telling on how you're unique. Like I think when you keep getting people telling you the same thing, I feel like a lot of times we don't even see what makes us so unique. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, I keep getting told that, this is the only place I can find XYZ, or every time I come in, it makes me feel, more jazzed or hyped or inspired. And that can really be really telling. So it's like really looking at those signs. I think oftentimes we just, it's even like the stuff that we know as a business owner, or the stuff that we kind of take for granted, like, oh, doesn't everybody know? Like with me, I always think, oh, doesn't everybody know you can do that on Facebook? Doesn't everyone know these are forms of marketing? And then people are like, no, we don't know that because that's not what we do.
That's really true, and that's a really good point to make. Instead of asking customers or people you've worked with, like, hey, can you write a testimonial about me? Asking them direct questions as to, listen, you just bought these really cool shoes from me. What'd you think? Or why did you get them? Like, why these and not somebody else's? And just asking them open-ended questions, and then asking them even for critical feedback about your business or ways that you might make it better. Even if you have a small cafe that you have recurring customers that keep coming back. So just asking them, hey, what's your favorite thing here? Or what's your favorite thing about? So maybe it's not even an item that's there. Maybe you find out that it's one of your employees that they just think is the coolest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Or the people that work with you, Kate. I think I've said this about you and what you're unique, and in one of the particular, like, the knowledge and the information you give is spot on. It's great. But it's the way that you do it. It's your personality that comes with it that makes it unique. And figuring out exactly which aspects of your personality that make it resonate with people differently. Because there's lots of people that know about, you can do this on Facebook, or you can do this in social media, or these are the things to consider when putting together your business. But not all of them come to it with the same flavor or perspective that you do.
Right. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Shawn, for the plug.
Yeah. Now it's just the two of us. Nobody's listening.
Right?
Kate, you're great.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, you're great. No, you're great. Erica said, thank you so much. Awesome answers. Okay, Dimitri said, how to do, okay, hold on. How do you increase value so you can charge a larger amount? Some companies can charge twice as much as others. What's the story for that change?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I'm gonna tell you. So this is definitely a world according to Shawn Pfunder question. That if you do find it in a book, then that person's really smart. Like, honestly, I think that it's interesting. We were talking about this earlier. If you're in a small town and you have a service and you're kind of jack of all trades, so let's say you're a writer in a small town, like a really small town, a town of 5,000 people. You won't be able to charge a lot, mostly because you're just known as the writer that just does everything that's there, right? Like, so you write the obituaries, you write about the local sports club and things like that. But it's interesting that outside of that small town, moving into a city, the more you identify, the more focused you become with what you do, the better you get at that one or two specific things, and the more money you end up charging with it. Now that's hard because you have to identify the particular niche or market that you go after, but you end up being able to charge more because you just become really fantastic at it. So instead of becoming jack of all trades, again, trying to help a huge audience, you start helping just a few. So a couple of examples on that. If I know Dimitri, I can use photography as an example. So photography is a great example that if you become known in the industry, if you become known in, let's say, Chicago as a fantastic portrait taker, right? You just do people or street photography, candid photography, and nobody has ever even seen the work that you've done for freelance for, eBay photos and things like that, because it's not part of who you are. Then there's never a question that you're the best photographer in town when it comes to portraits. Now that might mean you're not going to find work or a lot of work taking pictures of items for people to post in their e-commerce store or on eBay, but you're able to charge more for the specific thing that you're really, really good at. And so it's a really great question because it ties well to what we're talking about. The tighter your story gets on who you're trying to help and the more focused it gets on who you're trying to help, being able to then charge more for that particular service goes up. Like, that person for being really fantastic at X instead of kind of okay with X, Y, and Z. And that's been my experience in seeing that with especially with creatives, with writers, with performers, with videographers, with people that do photography. Those are the specialists that you go after. Instead of just saying like, we'll just find somebody, we decide, no, we're going to find this one person that we know is fantastic at this one thing. I don't know. I hope that helps, dude. I hope that's not too off base. Kate, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, he wrote, yes, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
I feel the same way. I see people in all these different areas of business, and when they, like in Dimitri with video, there's a company that I've worked with in the past that does videos, and they only focus with attorneys. They only work with law firms. So of course, law firms, they normally have a much bigger budget than a small business, and they love the fact that he does all this stuff just for law firms. So he knows the keywords, he knows how to get them ranked in Google and YouTube. So they go to him, and it's worth it to them to pay a little bit more. So he's got a good market that has the money to pay him, and he focuses just in that industry. So people really like him. So he's able to charge a lot more than like a typical videographer would.
Yeah, well, and that's perfect because we still know from research as well that the majority of small businesses and large businesses, the majority of their customers still find out about them from word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And the more targeted you are, they talk. And I've talked to photographers that for a period of time they wouldn't do business with GoDaddy or get their hosting at GoDaddy. And it wasn't because they hated GoDaddy, they didn't want to have anything to do with them. It's because they all knew about this one company that specialized specifically in doing hosting and websites for photographers. Mm-hmm. And I even thought the company wasn't that good, but it was this word of mouth. It was Coke versus Pepsi type of thing. But they were like, I'm going to go after the person that knows me the best, or at least looks like they know me the best, that has targeted specifically, and they're willing to spend more money and do more plans with them because of that focus that they have in their market.
All right, cool. Well, we're totally going over, so I just want to thank everybody for being super duper patient. And if you have any questions at all, then just send them over to me, and I can maybe Shawn and I can even jump on a little call and we can answer some questions. And can they reach out to you if they want to, Shawn? Like, can they friend you?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Yeah,
Yes.
100%. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, @Pfunder. If you follow my Instagram, I promise not to take lots of pictures of food.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
I just put that on. Okay. And it's Pfunder. Rachel, I just put it's Shawn Pfunder, Pfunder. And we were talking about some tools and resources as well, and we threw a couple of these in just to use. Shawn actually introduced me to this tool. I know he uses it for writing, but as you're doing some of your writing exercises, this is one that you might want to use. But I mean, this is kind of more editing, I guess.
It's great. Even with the editing, what it does is, one of the things it really does is it lets you know that whatever you're writing is not final and isn't concrete. It's I mean, I don't want to get too fluffy with it, but it's play. And so you're playing and you're practicing, just like you're practicing a song on the guitar. You don't play it perfect the first time. And so it will show you sentences that are difficult to read. It will show you sentences that are in passive voice. It will show you when you're using those 50-cent words to try to sound really, really smart when you should be using a different word to resonate with your audience. So it helps. It allows you to just write whatever you want, and then you can plug it into this, and it will help you then clarify and edit. It becomes really helpful when you need to cut it in half. So.
And this readability, it's funny because I just found out about this whole readability score when I was working with a company that did all email marketing, and anything that went out, it had to be a readability score of grade 5, right? Is that kind of right? So this is really good too, because instead of trying to make yourself sound super sophisticated, the normal person, like, you're supposed to write for like a grade 5 level, so that it's like
and the thing is,
readable.
Right, we all love to read between grade 3 and grade 5. And if you were to take one of your favorite authors and plug what they write in here, you'll see that they write between a grade level 3 and a grade level 5. It doesn't mean that it's childlike. It just means that they're using the normal. We're speaking right now at grade level 3, grade level 5. And so it helps sort of take out all of that. Look at me, I can use big words type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. And then this is just, I'm a huge fan of TED Talks. Shawn is as well, but this is TED Talks. They have a little storytelling section, so they have a couple of different TED Talks that are just about storytelling. And as you can imagine, they're really great because they are unbelievable storytellers. So if you need some inspiration as you're developing your story, this might be something that you want to just dive into and listen to kind of help get your juices flowing. I love listening to TED Talks like in the morning. It just helps to kind of inspire some thinking. And then this week, your action items. So a lot of the stuff that Shawn went over today, like he said, we put that in a worksheet for you. So you actually have those, you can find those worksheets in the members area. So your action items this week are to use that storytelling worksheet to create your story. And like Shawn said, it's a work in progress. So just kind of get started, and nothing is final. Don't feel like you have to create the perfect thing right away. It's probably not going to happen. So just start working on that worksheet, and then use the customer profile worksheet to start identifying who that perfect customer is. So who is your Elliot that you're speaking to with your story and with the content and the marketing that you're putting together. You're going to, just like last week, you're going to come up with those 3 to 5 action items to complete by the end of the week. And again, like I talked about in the beginning, make sure that these action items they're clear, they're succinct, they're not broad and vague. And these action items, like for instance, can be, hey, fill out my storytelling worksheet, something that has a beginning and an end, and you can say at the end of the week that you did accomplish it. And then share those action items and your number one goal in the Facebook group. so that we know what you're working on this week. And then this week, if you have any questions or if you need any feedback or you want to share your story or get feedback from other people in the group around that story or any of the worksheets that we're working on, just go to Facebook and use that private group. I know a lot of you have introduced yourself and posted your goals and everything, so use that group to stay on track and, again, to utilize me and other people in the group if you do have any questions or need anything at all from me during the week. And Shawn had mentioned both of our favorite authors, Seth Godin. So have an awesome, awesome week. And in the words of Seth Godin, go make something happen. So Shawn, thank you so much. We so appreciate you being here today. I know everybody, I told them they were in for a real treat. I ranted and raved about you, and you did not disappoint. So thank you so much for being on the call.
Yeah, thanks for being patient. It was my pleasure. You guys are great.
Yes, they are awesome. All right, awesome. Guys, have a great week. I will talk to you all soon.